Those who have a loved one struggling with addiction know it can be so difficult to convince them to seek treatment. In the past, tough love was a common approach to convince these people with substance use disorders to find help. But with overdoses being the #1 cause of accidental death in this country, some experts say it's time we change that approach. So I'm joined live by Dr. Brian Licuanan, psychologist and substance abuse expert, with advice on how families and friends can help get those loved ones into treatment and do that softer approach. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So again, I have a personal connection to this kind of subject. We have a family member who not only has a mental health disorder, but also has an addiction to alcohol, and that creates a rage problem with them. Now, we brought it up to them in the past. Of course, denial comes into play, and just, they shut us off, and we can't really get through to this person. So what would you recommend for someone like me or other people watching today to do in this kind of circumstance?
Okay. Great. Thank you for bringing up something personal with you. And one thing I want to tell all the family members out there, first and foremost, and it was the main purpose behind why I wrote my book, was to have hope. A lot of times family members lose hope and they feel helpless and hopeless and they give up on the person. And you mentioned earlier tough love. Tough love is well-meaning, and one of the things that I do is I like to reconceptualize some of those concepts, because a lot of times family members will look at tough love as tough luck, and they disconnect and disengage. And what I talk about is you can still come from a loving place. I actually call it assertive love, which is a nice balance between rules and relationship. So setting boundaries, that's what you're talking about with your loved one, is setting boundaries is not this aggressive thing that sometimes we think that it's what it's about. But setting a boundary means I'm just very clear on what I'm willing to partake or participate in what I'm not.
Right.
And so for family members like yourself to say, hey, we're here, we're always going to love you, we just can't continue to engage in this lifestyle that you're participating in, because we are doing more harm than good. And this is for family members like yourself who have been doing so much and feel like they've tried everything, pulled out all the stops, and they feel helpless. But there's a lot of things you can still do.
Absolutely. I mean, for us on our end, sometimes it comes from a place of frustration, and it's like, why can't you see what's going on here? But then you're saying we have to come from a place of love and understanding. What other kind of steps should we take in trying to get our loved ones into treatment?
Well, that is one of them. And one of the biggest things is when I believe that people are struggling and for a long period of time, one of the things I talk about, a must know, is because they could struggle that long because they can. Okay, something on some level in the system, the family system, is perpetuating. There's a saying, you didn't cause it, you can't cure it, you can't control it, but on some level you've participated or perpetuated the issue. And so it really takes a systemic involvement with all the family members to recognize what is their part, to recognize equal responsibility and work 100% on that share. And that's where a lot of families miss, is that they believe the person causing the most harm, destruction, are the people that have to do all the work. And it is truly an all-hands approach. And so, yes, coming from a loving place still, but being very firm on what your boundaries are and what you're willing to support and not support.
And Dr. Licuanan, before we run out of time right now, you have a book that comes out. What is it called, and where can people find it?
Sure. My book is called How to Get Your Resisting Loved One into Treatment, a step-by-step plan for mental health or addiction crisis. It is a strategy guide for family members who believe they've done everything they can. We have 25 must-know knowledges. We talk about the 12 steps that people can take as a family to get their loved one to a point where their only option is to accept help and get better. You can find this book on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, but Amazon's probably the best way on Kindle and paperback form.
It always is. All right. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Very important subject. Thank you for giving us advice on how we can approach our family members with love and understanding when it comes to substance abuse disorder.